Have you ever wondered why you keep attracting the same type of man over and over again? You know the one. The charmer who sweeps you off your feet, makes grand promises, and then disappears. The emotionally unavailable man who keeps you at arm's length while you bend over backwards trying to prove your worth. The narcissist who drains every ounce of your energy and leaves you questioning your own reality. If you're a woman over 40, 50, or 60, and you find yourself caught in this exhausting cycle, this video is going to change everything for you. Today, we're diving deep into why you keep attracting the wrong men, and more importantly, how to break free from this pattern once and for all. Stay with me because what I'm about to share will transform not just your love life, but your entire relationship with yourself. Welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, I'm so glad you found your way to this video. This channel is dedicated to empowering mature women like you to navigate the complex world of modern dating and relationships with wisdom, confidence, and clarity. Before we dive into today's powerful content, I want to ask you for a small favor. If this video resonates with you, please hit that like button. It helps more women who need this message find their way here. Drop a comment below and share your experiences or thoughts. Your story might be exactly what another woman needs to hear today. Share this video with any friends or family members who might benefit from this information. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and turn on that notification bell so you never miss content that's designed specifically for you. Also, if you really want to support the work we do here and help us continue creating valuable content for mature women, consider supporting the channel with super thanks. Your generosity allows us to keep bringing you the insights and guidance you deserve. Now let's get into this crucial conversation about protecting your energy and attracting the right kind of love into your life. Understanding your energy and what you're broadcasting. Let's start with a fundamental truth that might be difficult to hear, but it's essential for your growth and transformation. You are not attracting the wrong men by accident. I know that sounds harsh, and I want you to understand that I'm not blaming you. What I'm saying is that there's something in your energy, your behavior patterns, or your emotional state that's acting like a beacon for men who are not right for you. Think of it like a radio frequency. You're broadcasting a signal, and certain types of men are tuned into that exact frequency. The good news is that once you understand what signal you're sending out, you can change it. You have the power to reprogram your frequency and start attracting men who are worthy of you. When we talk about energy, we're talking about the vibration you give off to the world. It's in your body language, your confidence level, the way you speak about yourself and your past relationships, the boundaries you set or don't set, and the patterns you unconsciously repeat. Every interaction you have with a man is colored by this energy. If your energy is rooted in desperation, fear of being alone, low self-worth, or unhealed trauma, you're going to attract men who exploit those vulnerabilities. On the other hand, if your energy is grounded in self-love, clear boundaries, confidence, and emotional wholeness, you'll naturally repel the wrong men and attract those who are capable of real, healthy love. Many women over 40 find themselves in a particularly vulnerable position. Perhaps you've been through a divorce. Maybe you've spent decades in a relationship that didn't fulfill you. Perhaps you've never been married and you're feeling pressure from society or your own internal clock. You might be dealing with the grief of lost time, opportunities you feel you've missed, or regrets about past choices. All of these experiences create emotional wounds, and if these wounds haven't been properly healed, they influence the energy you put out into the dating world. Wounded energy attracts wounded people. It's not a moral failing. It's simply how energy works. Think about it this way. Have you ever noticed how when you desperately need something, it seems to elude you, but when you're content and not looking, opportunities appear? The same principle applies to relationships. When you're operating from a place of neediness, when you feel incomplete without a man, when you're willing to overlook red flags because you're afraid of being alone, you're sending out a signal that says, I'm available for less than I deserve. And there are plenty of men out there who are looking for exactly that kind of woman. Men who want someone they can manipulate, control, use for their own needs, and discard when they're done. The pattern of attracting emotionally unavailable. One of the most common complaints I hear from mature women is that they keep attracting emotionally unavailable men. These are the men who seem perfect at first. They're charming, attentive, and say all the right things. But as time goes on, you realize they're not capable of real emotional intimacy. They keep you at a distance. They're hot and cold. They make promises they don't keep. They're always dealing with some crisis or excuse that prevents them from fully committing to you. And yet, you keep hoping that if you just love them enough, if you're just patient enough, if you're just understanding enough, they'll finally open up and give you the love you crave. Let me be direct with you. This is a fantasy. An emotionally unavailable man is not going to suddenly become available because of your love. In fact, your willingness to accept breadcrumbs of affection actually reinforces his behavior. Why should he change when you're accepting him exactly as he is? The question you need to ask yourself is not how can I get him to change, but why am I attracted to emotionally unavailable men in the first place? This is where the real work begins, because if you're consistently attracted to these types of men, there's something in your own emotional makeup that's drawing you to them. Often, women who attract emotionally unavailable men are actually afraid of real intimacy themselves, even if they don't realize it. The emotionally unavailable man feels safe because he'll never get close enough to truly see you, to know your deepest fears and insecurities, to witness your flaws. There's a part of you that's relieved when he keeps his distance because it means you don't have to be vulnerable either. Or perhaps you grew up with an emotionally unavailable parent, usually a father, and you're unconsciously trying to win the love from this man that you never got from your parent. You're replaying old wounds, hoping for a different outcome. But here's the truth. You cannot heal childhood wounds through adult relationships. That healing work has to happen within you first. Another reason mature women attract emotionally unavailable men is because they confuse intensity with intimacy. The emotionally unavailable man often comes on strong at the beginning. He love bombs you. He makes you feel like you're the most special woman in the world. This intensity is intoxicating, especially if you've been lonely or in a passionless relationship for years. But intensity is not the same as intimacy. Real intimacy is built slowly over time through consistent, trustworthy behavior. It's about being seen and accepted for who you truly are, including your imperfections. The emotionally unavailable man offers you intensity, a roller coaster of highs and lows, and you mistake this drama for passion and connection. Why you keep choosing men who need fixing? Many mature women fall into the trap of choosing men who need fixing. These are men with obvious problems. Maybe they're struggling financially. Maybe they have addiction issues. Maybe they're going through a difficult divorce. Maybe they have unresolved trauma or mental health challenges, and you, being a kind, compassionate, nurturing woman, think you can help them. You see their potential. You believe that with your love and support, they can turn their life around. You take on the role of therapist, mother, financial supporter, or savior, and in doing so, you completely abandon yourself. Let me tell you something crucial. A man's potential means nothing. Absolutely nothing. What matters is who he is right now, today, in this moment. Not who he could be if he just got his act together. Not who he might become if he finally deals with his issues. Who he is right now. And if who he is right now is not someone who can meet your needs, respect your boundaries, and contribute positively to your life, then he is not the right man for you, period. You are not a rehabilitation center. You are not a charity. You are a woman who deserves a partner who comes to you as a whole, healthy, functional adult. Why do so many mature women fall into this pattern? Often, it's because you derive your sense of worth from being needed. If you grew up in a family where you had to take care of others, where your value was determined by how much you could give and sacrifice, then you've learned to equate love with self-sacrifice. You feel most valuable when you're needed, when someone depends on you, when you're fixing or saving someone. The problem is that this creates incredibly imbalanced relationships. You're giving and giving and giving, and he's taking and taking and taking, and you end up completely depleted and resentful while he remains stuck in his dysfunction. Another reason you might choose men who need fixing is because it's a way to avoid looking at your own issues. When you're focused on his problems, you don't have to deal with yours. When you're busy trying to fix him, you don't have time to work on yourself. It's a form of avoidance, a distraction from your own pain and healing work. But eventually, this strategy backfires because you cannot pour from an empty cup, and you cannot build a healthy relationship on a foundation of dysfunction. The men who need fixing are not projects for you to work on. And the sooner you accept this, the sooner you can redirect that energy towards someone who actually deserves it. Yourself. The role of low self-worth in attracting wrong. Men at the core of almost every pattern of attracting the wrong men is an issue of self-worth. If you don't believe you're worthy of real love, respect, and commitment, you will unconsciously accept less than you deserve. You will tolerate disrespect. You will excuse bad behavior. You will make yourself smaller to accommodate a man's limitations. You will silence your needs and desires to avoid conflict or abandonment. And all of this sends a clear message to men. This woman doesn't value herself, so I don't need to value her either. Low self-worth often develops over a lifetime of experiences. Maybe you were criticized or neglected as a child. Maybe you were in a long-term relationship where your partner made you feel inadequate. Maybe you've internalized society's messages about aging women being less valuable or desirable. Maybe you've made mistakes in your past that you're still punishing yourself for. Whatever the source, low self-worth becomes a lens through which you view yourself and your worthiness of love. And this lens distorts everything. It makes you grateful for the bare minimum. It makes you question whether you're asking for too much when you ask for basic respect. It makes you stay in relationships that are clearly wrong for you because you don't believe you deserve better. Here's what you need to understand. Your worth is not determined by your age, your appearance, your relationship status, your past mistakes, or any external factor. Your worth is inherent. You are worthy simply because you exist. You are worthy of love, respect, kindness, loyalty, and commitment, not because you've earned it or because you're perfect, but because you're a human being with dignity and value. Until you truly internalize this truth, you will continue to attract men who treat you as if you're worthless. Because the external world is always a reflection of your internal world. When you change how you see yourself, the kind of men you attract will change automatically. Building genuine self-worth is not about affirmations or positive thinking, although those can be helpful tools. It's about taking consistent action that demonstrates to yourself that you value yourself. It's about setting and enforcing boundaries. It's about speaking up for your needs. It's about walking away from situations and people that diminish you. It's about investing in yourself, your growth, your health, your happiness. It's about treating yourself with the same kindness, compassion, and respect that you so freely give to others. Every time you choose yourself, you strengthen your sense of self-worth. And as your self-worth grows, you become magnetic to quality men, while simultaneously repelling those who would take advantage of you. The danger of ignoring red flags. One of the most significant ways women attract and stay with the wrong men is by ignoring red flags. Red flags are warning signs that something is not right. They're your intuition telling you to pay attention, to proceed with caution, or to get out. But so many women, especially mature women who feel pressure to find a partner, override their intuition. They make excuses for concerning behavior. They give the benefit of the doubt when doubt should be trusted. They rationalize, minimize, and justify things that should disqualify a man from being in their life. Common red flags that mature women ignore include inconsistency in communication or behavior. If he's hot and cold, if his words don't match his actions, if he disappears and reappears without explanation, these are not signs of a man who's playing hard to get or going through a tough time. These are signs of a man who is not genuinely interested or available. Another red flag is rushing the relationship. If he's talking about love and commitment after just a few dates, if he's pushing for physical intimacy or moving in together before you've had time to truly know each other, this is not romantic. This is a manipulation tactic used by men who want to lock you in before you see who they really are. Disrespect is always a red flag, no matter how small it seems. If he's rude to waitstaff, if he makes demeaning jokes about you or women in general, if he dismisses your feelings or opinions, if he violates your boundaries, these behaviors will escalate over time. Men who disrespect you in the beginning when they're supposedly on their best behavior will only become more disrespectful as time goes on. Similarly, if he speaks badly about his ex or exes, blaming them for everything that went wrong, refusing to take any responsibility, that's a red flag. It shows a lack of self-awareness and accountability, and you will eventually become the next ex he trash talks. Financial irresponsibility or dependence is another red flag that mature women often overlook. If he's constantly broke, asking to borrow money, expecting you to pay for dates, or clearly looking for someone to support him financially, run. This is not a man looking for a partner. This is a man looking for a benefactor. Addiction issues, whether it's to alcohol, drugs, gambling, or even technology and pornography, are serious red flags. Unless he's actively in recovery and doing the work, these issues will dominate the relationship and cause immense pain. And finally, if he's still legally married, living with an ex or otherwise entangled with another woman, he is not available for a real relationship with you. Regardless of what story he tells you about why the situation is complicated, the reason red flags are so important is that they're predictive of future behavior. People show you who they are from the beginning. The question is whether you're willing to see it and act on it. Ignoring red flags doesn't make them go away. It just means you're choosing to enter into a relationship with someone who has already shown you they're not right for you. And when things inevitably go wrong, you'll look back and realize you saw the signs all along. You just chose not to believe them. Part of protecting your energy is becoming someone who respects red flags, who trusts her intuition, and who has the courage to walk away when something doesn't feel right, even if it means being alone for a while longer. The impact of unhealed trauma on your relationships. Unhealed trauma is one of the most powerful factors in attracting the wrong men. Trauma doesn't just come from obviously traumatic events like abuse or assault, although those certainly create trauma. Trauma can also come from emotional neglect, abandonment, betrayal, growing up in a dysfunctional family, experiencing the loss of a loved one, going through a painful divorce, or even experiencing chronic criticism and invalidation. If you've experienced trauma and haven't done the work to heal from it, that trauma will influence every relationship you enter into. Trauma affects your nervous system, your ability to trust, your attachment style, your sense of safety in relationships, and your beliefs about yourself and others. Women with unhealed trauma often have difficulty recognizing healthy behavior because it feels unfamiliar or even boring. The drama, intensity, and unpredictability of unhealthy relationships actually feels more comfortable because it matches your internal state. Your nervous system is calibrated to chaos and danger, so when you meet a kind, stable, consistent man, your system doesn't know how to respond. You might feel like there's no chemistry, or that he's too nice, or that the relationship lacks excitement. What you're actually experiencing is the discomfort of being in a safe relationship when your entire system is wired for danger. Trauma also creates maladaptive coping mechanisms. Maybe you fawn, people-pleasing and abandoning your own needs to keep the peace. Maybe you fight, becoming reactive and creating conflict. Maybe you freeze, shutting down emotionally and dissociating from difficult feelings. Maybe you flee, running away from intimacy or sabotaging relationships when they get too close. These trauma responses make healthy relationships very difficult because they're automatic reactions that happen without conscious thought. A man might do or say something completely benign, but it triggers your trauma response, and suddenly you're reacting from a wounded place rather than responding from a grounded, present place. Healing trauma is essential if you want to break the pattern of attracting wrong men. This healing work might involve therapy, particularly trauma-focused modalities like EMDR, somatic experiencing, or internal family systems therapy. It might involve body-based practices like yoga, meditation, or breathwork that help regulate your nervous system. It might involve journaling, support groups, or working with a coach. Whatever path you choose, the goal is to process and integrate the traumatic experiences so they no longer control your present-day behavior. As you heal, you'll find that you're naturally attracted to different kinds of men. The men who once seemed exciting and irresistible will suddenly seem unstable and unappealing. And the men you once overlooked as boring will reveal themselves as the steady, reliable, emotionally healthy partners they actually are. Understanding your attachment style, formed in early childhood based on your relationship with your primary caregivers, plays a massive role in the kind of romantic relationships you create in adulthood. There are 4 main attachment styles: secure, anxious, avoidant, and disorganized. If you have a secure attachment style, You're comfortable with intimacy and independence, you trust others, and you have a positive view of yourself and relationships. You're the least likely to attract or tolerate the wrong men because you have an internal compass that guides you toward healthy connections. However, if you have an anxious attachment style, you crave intimacy and approval. You worry about being abandoned, and you often feel that you love more than you're loved in return. You might be clingy, require constant reassurance, and feel anxious when your partner isn't available. Women with anxious attachment often attract avoidant men because avoidant men send mixed signals, pulling close and then pushing away, which activates the anxious person's fear of abandonment and need to pursue. This creates a toxic cycle where the anxious person chases and the avoidant person runs, and both people remain stuck in their wounds. If you have an avoidant attachment style, you value independence highly, you're uncomfortable with too much intimacy, and you tend to suppress your emotions. You might attract anxious partners who pursue you, or you might attract other avoidant people and create a relationship that lacks true emotional connection. Women with avoidant attachment might not think they're attracting the wrong men because they're often the ones pulling away, but the pattern is still unhealthy because it prevents real intimacy and vulnerability. Disorganized attachment, which develops from experiencing a caregiver who was both a source of comfort and fear, creates the most difficulty in relationships. People with disorganized attachment want closeness but are terrified of it. They might pursue intimacy and then sabotage it. They often attract unpredictable or abusive partners because that chaotic dynamic matches their internal experience. If you have disorganized attachment, healing work is absolutely essential before you can have a healthy relationship. The good news is that attachment styles can change. You're not doomed to repeat the same patterns forever. Through awareness, therapy, and conscious effort, you can move toward a more secure attachment style. This involves learning to self-soothe when you feel anxious, practicing vulnerability when you want to shut down, challenging your negative beliefs about relationships, and choosing partners who are also working on their own attachment issues or who already have secure attachment. As you become more securely attached, you'll stop attracting men who trigger your wounds and start attracting men who are capable of healthy, stable love. The mistake of moving too fast. Many mature women who are eager to find a partner make the mistake of moving too fast in relationships. You meet a man who seems great, and suddenly you're spending all your time together, sharing your deepest secrets, making him the center of your world, and planning a future together before you've even known him for a few months. This rush to intimacy feels exciting and romantic, but it's actually a dangerous pattern that prevents you from truly seeing who this man is. Real intimacy takes time to develop. It requires seeing how someone behaves in different situations, how they handle stress, conflict, disappointment, and responsibility. It requires watching whether their actions consistently match their words over an extended period. It requires seeing them interact with their family, friends, co-workers, and strangers. It requires experiencing all 4 seasons with them, going through challenges together, and observing how they show up for you when it's not convenient or when the initial excitement has worn off. None of this can happen in a few weeks or even a few months. When you move too fast, you're making decisions about a person based on incomplete information. You're bonding with the image they're presenting rather than the reality of who they are. And many men, particularly those with manipulative tendencies, are very good at presenting an appealing image in the beginning. They're on their best behavior. They're showing you what you want to see. They're love-bombing you, overwhelming you with attention, affection, and promises to bypass your natural defenses and critical thinking. By the time you start to see who they really are, you're already emotionally invested, maybe even financially entangled, and it's much harder to walk away. Moving too fast also prevents you from maintaining your own life and identity. If you're suddenly spending all your time with a new man, you're probably neglecting your friendships, hobbies, self-care, and personal goals. You're making him your whole world, which creates an unhealthy dynamic where your happiness depends entirely on him. This makes you vulnerable to staying in a relationship even when it's clearly not working because you've abandoned everything else for him. And the thought of losing him means losing your entire sense of purpose and identity. The solution is to slow down, regardless of how excited you are about someone. Take your time getting to know him. Continue investing in your own life, your friendships, your interests. Don't introduce him to your family and friends right away. Don't post about him on social media. Don't make major decisions or sacrifices for him until he's proven himself trustworthy over time. A man who is genuinely interested in building something real with you will respect your pace and will also want to take the time to get to know you properly. A man who pressures you to move faster, who makes you feel guilty for wanting to take things slow, or who threatens to move on if you don't commit quickly, is showing you that he's not interested in what's best for you. He's interested in locking you down before you realize he's not who he's pretending to be. The problem with trying to earn love many women, particularly those who grew up feeling like they had to earn love and approval, bring this pattern into their adult relationships. You believe that if you're just good enough, if you give enough, if you do enough, if you're loving enough, patient enough, understanding enough, then he'll finally give you the love you crave. You're constantly trying to prove your worth, to earn his affection, to win his commitment. And this is exhausting and completely backwards. Love is not something you should have to earn. Real love is freely given to someone simply because of who they are, not because of what they do for you. If you're in a relationship where you feel like you're constantly auditioning, constantly trying to be good enough, constantly walking on eggshells to avoid his displeasure, that's not love. That's conditional acceptance, and it will never feel secure or satisfying no matter how hard you try. You could be perfect in every way, and a man who makes you earn his love will simply move the goalposts and find new reasons why you're not quite good enough. This pattern of trying to earn love attracts men who are happy to take everything you give without reciprocating. They're users who benefit from your desperate need to prove yourself. They'll let you cook, clean, pay bills, provide emotional support, and cater to their every need while giving you breadcrumbs of affection in return. And because you're in earning mode, you'll accept those breadcrumbs and keep trying harder, believing that if you just do a little more, he'll finally appreciate you and give you the love you deserve. But he never will, because the problem isn't that you're not doing enough. The problem is that he's not capable of or interested in giving you real love. Breaking this pattern requires a fundamental shift in how you view love. You must internalize the truth that you don't need to earn love. Your inherent worthiness means you deserve love simply for being you. Any man who makes you feel like you need to prove yourself is the wrong man. A right man will see your value immediately and consistently demonstrate his love through his actions. He won't make you jump through hoops. He won't make you wonder where you stand. He won't require you to diminish yourself or give up parts of yourself to be worthy of his love. He'll simply love you consistently and reliably, because he recognizes what a gift you are. Setting and maintaining boundaries. If there's one skill that will transform your ability to attract the right men and repel the wrong ones, it's the ability to set and maintain strong boundaries. Boundaries are not walls that keep people out. They're guidelines for how you expect to be treated and what behavior you will and will not accept. They're about honoring yourself, your needs, your values, and your limits. And they're absolutely essential for healthy relationships. Yet many mature women struggle terribly with boundaries. They were taught that being a good woman means being accommodating, flexible, and self-sacrificing. They were taught that setting boundaries is selfish or mean. They were taught to prioritize everyone else's needs above their own. The result is that they enter relationships as boundaryless beings, available for anything, willing to tolerate anything, unable to say no. And this attracts men who have no respect for boundaries, because those men are looking for exactly this kind of woman. A woman they can control, manipulate, and use without pushback. When you have no boundaries, you're essentially telling men that they can treat you however they want and you'll accept it. And many will take you up on that offer. They'll show up late. They'll cancel plans last minute. They'll expect you to be available whenever they want, but be unavailable when you need them. They'll speak to you disrespectfully. They'll violate your physical boundaries. They'll pressure you to do things you're not comfortable with. And because you don't have strong boundaries, you'll allow all of this to happen. Setting boundaries begins with clarity about what's acceptable and unacceptable to you. What behavior will you tolerate? What's a deal breaker?
What are your non-negotiables?
You need to get very clear about your standards and values. Then, you need to communicate these boundaries clearly and directly. Not apologetically, not tentatively, but with confidence and firmness. For example, if you need consistent communication, you might say, "I need regular communication in a relationship. If days go by without hearing from you, that doesn't work for me." If you value honesty, you might say, "Honesty is non-negotiable for me. If I discover you've lied to me about anything, the relationship is over." But here's the thing about boundaries. They're meaningless if you don't enforce them. You can state your boundaries all day long, but if you don't follow through with consequences when they're violated, you're teaching men that your boundaries don't actually matter. So if you say you need consistent communication and he goes silent for days, you need to be willing to walk away. If you say honesty is non-negotiable and he lies, you need to end the relationship. This is where many women falter. They set boundaries but then make excuses when men violate them. They give second, third, and fourth chances. They're afraid that enforcing their boundaries means they'll lose the man. And here's what you need to understand. If enforcing your boundaries means you lose him, he was the wrong man. The right man will respect your boundaries and will not require you to repeatedly state them or threaten consequences to get him to honor them. Strong boundaries don't just protect you from wrong men. They also attract right men. Men who are emotionally healthy and looking for a real partner are attracted to women who know their worth and who have clear boundaries. These men find confidence and self-respect attractive. They want a partner, not a doormat. They want someone who will call them on their behavior when they're wrong, who will stand up for herself, who has her own identity and doesn't just mold herself to fit his needs. When you have strong boundaries, you naturally filter out the wrong men who would be repelled by or disrespectful of boundaries. And you attract the right men who appreciate and value a woman who knows herself and honors herself. The importance of taking time alone. One of the most powerful things you can do to stop attracting the wrong men is to spend significant time alone. Not dating, not looking for a relationship, just being with yourself. For many mature women, this is terrifying. You might feel pressure because of your age. You might fear that if you take time off from dating, you'll miss your chance at finding love. You might be uncomfortable being alone with your thoughts and feelings. But taking time alone is not wasting time. It's the most important investment you can make in your future relationship success. Time alone allows you to heal from past relationships. If you've been hurt, betrayed, or traumatized, you need space to process those experiences, to grieve, to learn the lessons, and to rebuild yourself. Jumping from one relationship to another without this healing time means you bring all your wounds, triggers, and baggage into the new relationship, and history will repeat itself. Time alone allows you to rediscover who you are outside of a relationship. Many women lose themselves in relationships, adapting to their partner's preferences, giving up their own interests, molding themselves into what they think he wants. When you spend time alone, you have the opportunity to reconnect with yourself, to remember what you enjoy, what you value, what you dream about, what makes you uniquely you. Time alone allows you to raise your standards. When you're lonely and desperately seeking a relationship, you'll settle for far less than you deserve. But when you're content in your aloneness, when you've built a full, satisfying life for yourself, your standards automatically rise. You recognize that a man needs to add significant value to your life to be worth the compromise and vulnerability that relationships require. You become picky in the best possible way. Time alone allows you to do the deep personal work that transformation requires. You can't fix your patterns while you're in them. You need space to reflect, to work with a therapist or coach, to read and learn, to practice new behaviors, to rewire your brain and nervous system. Many women resist taking time alone because they believe they need a man to be happy. They've internalized the message that being single is a failure, that they're incomplete without a partner. But this belief is precisely what keeps them in the cycle of attracting wrong men. When you believe you need a man, you'll accept any man rather than being alone. When you know you're whole and complete on your own, you'll only accept a man who truly enhances your life. Your alone time should be used to build a life you love, to pursue your passions, to nurture your friendships, to take care of your health, to create financial stability, to engage in activities that bring you joy and fulfillment. The goal is to reach a place where you're genuinely happy being single, where you're not looking for a man to rescue you or complete you, but where you're open to sharing your already full life with someone who's worthy of you. When you reach this place of contentment in your aloneness, something magical happens. You stop attracting wrong men because you're no longer energetically desperate for a relationship. Your energy shifts from seeking to being, from lack to abundance, from neediness to wholeness. And this energy is incredibly attractive to emotionally healthy men while being unattractive to users and manipulators. Taking time alone is not giving up on love. It's preparing yourself to finally have the kind of love you've always wanted. Recognizing and healing your people-pleasing tendencies, people-pleasing, is one of the most common traits in women who attract the wrong men. If you're a people-pleaser, you've learned to prioritize others' needs, feelings, and wants above your own. You have difficulty saying no. You feel responsible for managing other people's emotions. You avoid conflict at all costs. You derive your sense of worth from being helpful, accommodating, and likable. And while these qualities might seem positive on the surface, they create enormous problems in romantic relationships. People-pleasing attracts selfish, narcissistic men like a magnet. These men can sense from a mile away that you're someone who will put their needs first, who won't push back, who will sacrifice yourself to keep them happy. They see you as an easy target, someone they can use to get their needs met without having to reciprocate or consider your feelings. They'll gladly let you cook their meals, do their laundry, solve their problems, boost their ego, and cater to their every whim while giving you the bare minimum in return. And because you're a people pleaser, you'll do all of this with a smile, telling yourself you're just being loving, when really you're being used. People-pleasing also prevents authentic intimacy because you're never showing your true self. You're always performing, always trying to be what you think he wants, always hiding your real thoughts, feelings, and needs for fear of displeasing him. You agree when you actually disagree. You say you're fine when you're hurt. You laugh at jokes that aren't funny. You pretend to enjoy activities you don't like. You have sex when you don't want to. You give time, energy, and resources you can't afford to give. You're so busy managing his experience of you that there's no room for him to know the real you. And without authenticity, there can never be real love. Healing people-pleasing tendencies requires understanding where they came from. Often, people-pleasing develops in childhood as a survival strategy. Maybe you had a parent who was volatile, and you learned that keeping them happy kept you safe. Maybe you were praised for being good and accommodating and punished for having needs or causing inconvenience. Maybe you witnessed a parent people-pleasing and absorbed this as the correct way to be. Whatever the source, people-pleasing is rooted in the belief that your worth depends on others' approval and that your own needs are less important than others' needs. Both of these beliefs are false and must be challenged. Overcoming people-pleasing involves learning to tolerate displeasing others. You must accept that not everyone will like you, and that's okay. You must practice saying no without explanation or apology. You must start voicing your opinions even when they differ from others. You must learn to sit with the discomfort of conflict instead of immediately trying to smooth things over. You must prioritize your own needs and feelings as equal to others. This will feel incredibly uncomfortable at first because it goes against everything you've trained yourself to do. You might fear that people will reject you if you stop people-pleasing. And you know what? Some people will, but those people were only in your life because you were useful to them, not because they valued you. The people who truly love you will appreciate you becoming more authentic and boundaried. In dating, overcoming people-pleasing means showing up as yourself from the beginning. Don't pretend to like things you don't like. Don't agree to plans that don't work for you. Don't suppress your opinions. Don't ignore your feelings. Don't accommodate unreasonable requests. The right man will appreciate your authenticity, your boundaries, and your willingness to prioritize yourself. He'll want you to have needs and to voice them. He'll want you to be a real person, not a fantasy of easy agreeableness. And by being authentic, you'll filter out the men who are only interested in what you can do for them and attract men who are interested in who you are. Understanding codependency and its impact. Codependency is a pattern of behavior where you define yourself through others, where your happiness depends on their happiness, where you feel responsible for fixing their problems, and where you lose your sense of self in relationships. Codependency is closely related to people-pleasing, but goes even deeper. It's a condition where you cannot function healthily on your own because your entire identity is wrapped up in caretaking and managing others. If you're codependent, you probably attract men who are dysfunctional, addicted, emotionally unhealthy, or otherwise in need of caretaking. And you enable their dysfunction by rescuing them, making excuses for them, and preventing them from facing the natural consequences of their behavior. Codependency often develops from growing up in a dysfunctional family, particularly where there was addiction, mental illness, abuse, or neglect. You learned early on that your role was to manage the chaos, to take care of others' needs, to suppress your own feelings, to avoid making things worse. You learned that love means sacrifice and suffering. You learned that your needs don't matter. These patterns become so deeply ingrained that they feel normal to you. You don't recognize that what you're doing is unhealthy because it's all you've ever known. In romantic relationships, codependency shows up as an intense need to control or fix your partner. You can't let him experience his own pain or learn his own lessons. You jump in to rescue him from consequences. You make his problems your problems. You feel anxious when he's upset and won't rest until you've made him feel better. You give up your own goals, friendships, and interests to focus entirely on him. You tolerate unacceptable behavior because you tell yourself he needs you. And you feel unable to leave even when the relationship is clearly damaging you because you cannot bear the thought of him suffering without you, or because your entire identity is based on being needed by him. Codependency is often mistaken for love, but it's not love. It's fear-based attachment. Real love involves two whole individuals choosing to share their lives while maintaining their separate identities. Codependency involves two people merging into one dysfunctional unit where neither person can function independently. Real love is liberating and growth-promoting. Codependency is suffocating and stagnating. Real love feels peaceful and secure. Codependency feels anxious and chaotic. If your relationships consistently feel like emotional roller coasters where you're constantly worried about him, constantly trying to fix him, constantly sacrificing yourself, you're dealing with codependency, not love. Healing codependency is essential if you want to stop attracting wrong men. This healing work typically requires professional help because the patterns are so deeply rooted. 12-step programs like Codependence Anonymous can be helpful. Therapy with someone who specializes in codependency is invaluable. The goal is to learn to separate yourself from others, to take responsibility only for yourself, to let others experience the consequences of their choices, to develop a strong sense of self that exists independent of relationships, and to learn what healthy love actually looks like. As you heal your codependency, you'll find that you're no longer attracted to men who need fixing. You'll be attracted to men who are whole, who take responsibility for themselves, and who are capable of being real partners rather than projects. The fantasy bond and why it keeps you stuck. Many women stay stuck with the wrong men because they're in what psychologists call a fantasy bond. This is where you're in love with the potential of who he could be, rather than accepting the reality of who he is. You've created a fantasy in your mind about who this man is, what your relationship could become, and how happy you'll be together if he would just change in certain ways. This fantasy is so compelling that you stay in the relationship waiting for it to materialize, even when all evidence suggests it never will. The fantasy bond is maintained by intermittent reinforcement. Occasionally he does something that aligns with your fantasy. He's sweet and attentive for a day. He makes a promise about changing. He acknowledges he's been distant and pledges to do better. These brief moments of hope reignite your fantasy and give you just enough encouragement to stay. You tell yourself, see, I knew the real him was in there. I just need to be patient. But then he reverts to his old behavior and you're devastated again. And so the cycle continues, with you living for those rare moments that confirm your fantasy while enduring long stretches of disappointment. The fantasy bond is dangerous because it prevents you from seeing and accepting reality. Reality is who he is consistently, not who he is occasionally on his best days. Reality is that he's shown you through his actions that he's not capable of or interested in giving you what you need. Reality is that people change only when they want to change, not because you need them to. Reality is that no amount of love, patience, or understanding from you will transform someone who doesn't want to transform. The fantasy bond keeps you stuck because you're relating to an imaginary version of this person rather than the real person in front of you. Breaking free from the fantasy bond requires radical acceptance of reality. You must be willing to see this person clearly, without the rose-colored glasses of potential. You must be willing to accept that he is who he is, and he's showing you who he is through his consistent behavior. You must be willing to let go of the fantasy of who you thought he was or who he could become. This is incredibly painful because it means grieving the loss of the relationship you imagined. But it's also incredibly freeing because once you're no longer chasing a fantasy, you can make clear-headed decisions based on reality. And reality, in the case of the wrong man, should tell you to walk away and save your love for someone who's actually capable of receiving it and reciprocating it. The role of fear in your relationship. Choices fear is often the hidden driver behind attracting and staying with the wrong men. Fear of being alone. Fear of never finding love. Fear of aging without a partner. Fear of judgment from others. Fear of missing out. Fear that you're not good enough to attract a better man. Fear that this is the best you can do. These fears, often operating unconsciously, lead you to make desperate choices to settle for less than you deserve and to tolerate unacceptable treatment. Fear of being alone is particularly powerful for mature women. Society sends constant messages that being single is sad, lonely, and pitiable, especially for older women. You see coupled-up friends and feel like you're missing out. You attend weddings and family gatherings solo and feel self-conscious. You worry about growing old without a partner to share your life with. This fear makes you cling to relationships that aren't working. It makes you accept breadcrumbs of affection rather than holding out for real love. It makes you ignore red flags because being with the wrong man feels safer than being alone. But here's the truth. Being alone is infinitely better than being with the wrong person. Being alone allows you to maintain your dignity, peace, and self-respect. Being with the wrong person slowly erodes all of these things until you don't even recognize yourself anymore. Fear that you won't find anyone else or that this is your last chance is another. Fear that keeps women stuck with wrong men. You tell yourself that you're not getting any younger, that the dating pool at your age is limited, that you should be grateful anyone wants you. These thoughts are not only cruel to yourself, they're also not true. There are plenty of quality men at every age who are looking for meaningful relationships. But you won't be available for them if you're wasting your time with someone who's wrong for you. Every day you spend with the wrong man is a day you're not available for the right man. Fear paralyzes you and keeps you stuck. Courage and faith in yourself propel you forward. Which energy do you want to operate from? Overcoming these fears requires building faith in yourself and in life. It requires developing a deep trust that you're going to be okay, no matter what happens. It requires believing that you deserve more than settling. It requires accepting that there's a timing and flow to life. And your job is not to force or control outcomes, but to stay true to yourself and your standards and trust that the right person will come when you're ready. It also requires examining the beliefs underlying your fears. If you're afraid of being alone, what do you believe about being alone? That you'll be lonely? That you're a failure? That your life has no meaning without a partner? Challenge these beliefs. Build a life that's so full and satisfying that you don't need a partner to feel complete. From that place of wholeness, you can date from a place of desire rather than need, and that completely changes the kind of men you attract. Learning to listen to your intuition. Every woman has an internal guidance system called intuition. It's that gut feeling, that inner knowing, that sense that something is off even when you can't articulate why. Your intuition is your subconscious mind processing information and patterns faster than your conscious mind can. It picks up on subtle cues in behavior, tone of voice, body language, and inconsistencies that your conscious mind might overlook or rationalize away. Your intuition is always trying to protect you and guide you toward what's best for you. The problem is that many women have learned to ignore their intuition, particularly in matters of romance. You ignore your intuition because you don't want it to be right. You don't want to see the red flags because you're invested in this working out. You don't want to acknowledge your gut feeling that something's wrong, because it's easier to rationalize and give him the benefit of the doubt. You don't want to admit that your intuition is telling you to walk away because you're lonely or you're afraid you won't find anyone else. So you override your intuition. You talk yourself out of your concerns. You let him gaslight you into thinking you're being paranoid or too sensitive. And then, months or years later, when things fall apart exactly as your intuition warned you they would, you realize you knew all along but chose not to listen. Learning to listen to your intuition starts with learning to recognize it. Intuition often communicates through physical sensations. A tightening in your stomach, a heaviness in your chest, a sense of unease or discomfort. It also communicates through persistent thoughts or feelings that won't go away, no matter how much you try to rationalize them. Pay attention to these signals. When something doesn't feel right, trust that feeling even if you can't logically explain why. Your intuition doesn't need to present evidence or make a case. It simply knows. And your job is to listen. To strengthen your intuition, practice tuning into your body and feelings regularly, not just in crisis moments. Meditate, journal, spend time in silence. Ask yourself how you feel in different situations and with different people. Notice when your body relaxes and when it tenses up. Notice when you feel expansive and energized versus contracted and drained. The more you practice this body-based awareness, the easier it becomes to recognize your intuition speaking to you. And then, crucially, you must act on your intuition. If your gut tells you something's wrong with this guy, walk away. Don't wait for concrete evidence. Don't give him more chances to prove your intuition wrong. Trust yourself and act accordingly. The more you honor your intuition, the stronger and clearer it becomes, and the better it can guide you toward right relationships and away from wrong ones. The importance of having your own life, one of the most attractive qualities you can possess, and one that naturally repels wrong men, is having a full, rich life of your own. When you have your own interests, friendships, goals, and passions, you're not looking for a man to be your entire world. You're looking for someone to complement an already satisfying life. This is incredibly attractive to emotionally healthy men and unattractive to users and manipulators who want someone with no life of their own, who will focus entirely on them. Having your own life means you have friendships that you nurture and prioritize. You don't abandon your friends the moment you meet a man. You maintain your connections and make regular time for them. Having your own life means you have hobbies and interests that light you up. Maybe you paint, play an instrument, garden, volunteer, take classes, travel, practice yoga, write, or engage in sports. You have things you do purely because they bring you joy, not because they're productive or impressive. Having your own life means you have goals and aspirations beyond finding a relationship. You're working on your career, building a business, pursuing education, working toward fitness goals, or creating something meaningful. You have a sense of purpose that exists independent of romantic love. When you have your own life, you become selective about who you let into it. You recognize that your time and energy are precious, and you're not willing to give them to just anyone. A man has to prove himself worthy of being included in your life. He has to add value, not detract from the life you've built. This naturally filters out the wrong men because they sense they can't control you or make you dependent on them. You're too whole, too busy, too fulfilled to be manipulated into making them your entire world. On the other hand, right men appreciate that you're a full person with your own life. They respect your independence and they want to build something together where both of you bring your wholeness to the relationship. Having your own life also protects you from losing yourself in a relationship. When a relationship ends or doesn't work out, you don't fall apart because you still have your friends, your interests, your goals, your identity. Your life continues. The relationship was an addition to your life, not the foundation of it. This resilience is empowering and attractive. It shows emotional maturity and health. Start building this full life now, even if you're single, and even if building a life alone feels scary or pointless. Build it for yourself, not as a strategy to attract men. Build it because you deserve a beautiful, meaningful life regardless of your relationship status. And watch how this shift in focus transforms not just your life, but also the kind of men who come into it. Raising your standards are non-negotiables if you're attracting the wrong men. It's time to get serious about raising your standards. Standards are the requirements you have for someone who gets to be in your life romantically. They're your non-negotiables, the qualities and behaviors that are essential, and the deal breakers, the things you absolutely will not accept. Many women either don't have clear standards or their standards are far too low. They accept anyone who shows interest, They're grateful for basic human decency. They stay with men who don't meet their needs as long as there's some positive quality they can focus on. High standards are not about being superficial or picky about unimportant things. They're about knowing what you need to be happy, healthy, and fulfilled in a relationship and refusing to accept less. Your standards should include emotional availability. He's capable of intimacy, vulnerability, and emotional connection. He's dealt with his past trauma and is in a healthy place emotionally. He's not shut down, avoidant, or emotionally stunted. Your standards should include consistency. His words match his actions. He follows through on promises. He shows up when he says he will. There's no hot and cold behavior, no disappearing and reappearing, no keeping you guessing where you stand. Your standards should include respect. He speaks to you kindly and respectfully, even during disagreements. He respects your boundaries, your time, your feelings, and your autonomy. He doesn't belittle you, dismiss you, or make you feel small. Your standards should include integrity. He's honest even when it's uncomfortable. He takes responsibility for his mistakes. He doesn't lie, cheat, manipulate, or deceive. Your standards should include reciprocity. He gives as much as he takes. The relationship feels balanced. You're not always the one initiating, planning, compromising, or sacrificing. He shows up for you the way you show up for him. Your standards should include compatibility in values and life goals. You want similar things out of life. You share core values about things like family, money, health, personal growth. You have compatible visions for the future. You don't have to be identical, but you need to be aligned enough that you're moving in the same direction. Write out your standards. Be specific and clear. And then, this is crucial, do not compromise on them. It doesn't matter how charming he is, how attractive, how successful, or how much chemistry you feel. If he doesn't meet your standards, he's not the right man for you. Period. Having high standards and sticking to them will mean you'll spend more time single because fewer men will meet them. That's not a problem. That's the point. You're filtering for quality, not quantity. And the man who does meet your standards will be worth the wait. Taking responsibility for your part. While it's important to recognize the ways men have hurt or disappointed you, it's equally important to take responsibility for your part in attracting and staying with the wrong men. This is not about blaming yourself. It's about recognizing that you have power and agency in your life. You make choices, even if those choices are influenced by unconscious patterns, trauma, or conditioning. And if you want different results, you have to make different choices. You cannot change anyone else, but you can change yourself. And that's where your power lies. Taking responsibility means acknowledging that you ignored red flags. You saw signs that something was wrong but chose to overlook them. Taking responsibility means acknowledging that you stayed too long. You knew the relationship wasn't working, but you stayed anyway, hoping things would change. Taking responsibility means acknowledging that you accepted unacceptable treatment. You allowed him to disrespect you, to violate your boundaries, to treat you as less than you deserve. Taking responsibility means acknowledging that you didn't have or enforce boundaries. You were so focused on being loved that you made yourself available for anything without setting clear limits. Taking responsibility means acknowledging that you lost yourself in the relationship. You abandoned your friends, interests, and identity to focus entirely on him. Taking responsibility also means acknowledging the beliefs, patterns, and wounds that influenced your choices. Your low self-worth made you grateful for crumbs. Your fear of being alone made you settle. Your people-pleasing tendencies made you prioritize his needs over your own. Your trauma made you attracted to familiar but unhealthy dynamics. Your codependency made you need to be needed. Your fantasy bond kept you waiting for someone who was never going to change. You can acknowledge these patterns without judging yourself harshly. You did the best you could with the awareness and tools you had at the time. But now you have new awareness, and with that awareness comes the responsibility to make different choices going forward. Taking responsibility is empowering because it shifts you from victim to creator. When you're a victim, you're powerless and at the mercy of circumstances and other people. When you take responsibility, you recognize that while you can't control others, you can control yourself, your choices, your boundaries, and your responses. You become the author of your life rather than a character in someone else's story. This doesn't mean you won't make mistakes or that change will be instant. It means you're committed to learning, growing, and doing things differently. Every time you make a choice that honors yourself, you're rewriting your story. Every time you walk away from something that's not right for you, you're creating space for something better. Taking responsibility is not about dwelling on the past or beating yourself up. It's about acknowledging the truth of your patterns so you can consciously change them and create the future you want. Creating a vision for the relationship. Many women approach dating reactively rather than proactively. They wait to see what kind of men are interested in them and then try to make those connections work, regardless of whether those men are actually right for them. A more empowering approach is to get crystal clear about the kind of relationship you want and then look for a man who can create that with you. This requires creating a vision for your ideal relationship, not a fantasy about a perfect man who doesn't exist, but a realistic vision of the kind of partnership you want to build. Start by asking yourself what you want to feel in a relationship. Do you want to feel safe, cherished, respected, excited, peaceful, supported, seen, valued? Get clear on the emotional experience you're looking for. Then consider what qualities and behaviors would create those feelings. If you want to feel safe, you need a man who's consistent, trustworthy, and emotionally stable. If you want to feel cherished, you need a man who's affectionate, attentive, and makes you a priority. If you want to feel respected, you need a man who listens to you, values your opinions, and treats you as an equal. If you want to feel supported, you need a man who encourages your goals, celebrates your successes, and is there for you during challenges. Consider what kind of life you want to build together. Do you want to travel, stay put, live in the city, live in the country? Do you want an active social life or a quiet home life? Do you value family time or independence? Are you interested in building wealth, living simply, pursuing creative endeavors, serving others? Get clear on your values and the lifestyle you want. Then consider what kind of communication style you need. Do you need someone who's verbally expressive or is comfortable with silence? Do you need frequent check-ins or more independence? How do you want to handle conflict? You need someone whose communication style is compatible with yours, or who's willing to learn how to communicate in ways that work for both of you. Write all of this down. Create a detailed vision of the relationship you want. Be specific, but also be flexible. This is not about creating an impossible checklist that no human could meet. It's about getting clear on what truly matters to you so you can recognize it when you see it. And so you're not wasting time with men who can't give you what you're looking for. Your vision serves as a compass. When you meet someone, you can ask yourself, is this person capable of creating the kind of relationship I envision? If the answer is no, you can move on quickly instead of trying to force a square peg into a round hole. Having a clear vision also helps you stay focused during lonely moments when you might be tempted to settle. You can return to your vision and remind yourself what you're holding out for and why it's worth the wait. Recognizing when it's time to walk away. One of the most important skills in protecting your energy and avoiding wrong men is knowing when to walk away. Many women stay far too long in relationships that are clearly not working, hoping things will improve, making excuses for their partner, or feeling guilty about leaving. But staying in the wrong relationship is not noble or loving. It's self-abandonment. It's choosing comfort or fear over your own well-being. There are clear signs that it's time to walk away. And you need to be honest enough with yourself to recognize them and brave enough to act on them. It's time to walk away when you've communicated your needs repeatedly and nothing changes. If you've had calm, clear conversations about what you need and he continues to disregard your needs, he's showing you that meeting your needs is not a priority for him. Stop waiting for him to suddenly start caring. It's time to walk away when there's no emotional intimacy. If you feel lonely in the relationship, if you can't have deep conversations, if he's closed off emotionally, and if he's unwilling to work on creating more intimacy, you're in a relationship that will never fulfill you emotionally. It's time to walk away when your self-esteem is suffering. If you feel worse about yourself since being with him, if you're constantly questioning your worth, if you're losing your confidence and joy, the relationship is toxic, and you need to get out. It's time to walk away when there's abuse of any kind, whether physical, emotional, verbal, or financial. Abuse doesn't get better. It escalates. No matter what he promises, no matter how sorry he seems, Abuse is a pattern that requires serious professional help to change, and you cannot fix him. Your responsibility is to protect yourself. It's time to walk away when you're making all the effort. If you're always the one initiating contact, planning dates, trying to connect, working on the relationship, and he's just passively receiving your efforts without reciprocating, you're in a one-sided relationship. It's time to walk away when your values are fundamentally incompatible. If you want different things out of life, if you disagree on major issues like children, money, lifestyle, or values, no amount of love will bridge that gap. You'll end up resenting each other. It's time to walk away when you've lost yourself. If you don't recognize yourself anymore, if you've given up your friends, interests, goals, and identity to accommodate the relationship, you need to leave and reclaim yourself. It's time to walk away when your gut tells you to. If your intuition is screaming that something's wrong, listen to it. You don't need to have concrete evidence or a logical reason. Trust yourself. Walking away is not failure. It's not giving up. It's not being selfish. Walking away from what's wrong for you is an act of self-love and courage. It's choosing yourself. It's protecting your energy. It's making space for what's right to enter your life. Don't stay out of guilt, obligation, fear, or hope. Stay only if the relationship is healthy, fulfilling, and adding value to your life. Otherwise, have the courage to walk away. Surrounding yourself with supportive people. The people you surround yourself with have a huge impact on your relationship patterns. If your friends and family constantly tell you to lower your standards, to give men more chances, to be less picky, to settle because you're not getting any younger, they're not helping you. They're reinforcing the patterns that keep you stuck with wrong men. You need to surround yourself with people who support your growth, who encourage your high standards, who remind you of your worth, and who will lovingly call you out when you're settling or making excuses for unacceptable behavior. Find friends who are in healthy relationships or who are happily single and living fulfilling lives. These people model what's possible. They show you that you don't have to settle, that healthy love exists, that being single can be empowering and joyful. Limit your time with people who are in dysfunctional relationships and who normalize dysfunction. Their perspective is skewed, and they'll unconsciously try to drag you down to their level to make themselves feel better about their own choices. You need people who are going to support you in raising your standards, not convince you to lower them. Consider working with a therapist or coach who specializes in relationships and personal development. Professional support can be invaluable in breaking patterns and healing wounds. A good therapist can help you understand your attachment style, process your trauma, challenge your limiting beliefs, and develop new behaviors. A good coach can help you create a vision for what you want, hold you accountable to your standards, and navigate the dating world with strategy and confidence. You don't have to do this work alone, and having professional guidance can accelerate your transformation significantly. Join communities of like-minded women who are on the same journey. Whether it's online groups, local meetups, or workshops, being part of a community of women who are committed to their growth and to attracting healthy love is incredibly supportive and encouraging. You'll learn from each other's experiences. You'll feel less alone in your struggles. You'll be inspired by each other's victories, and you'll have a safe space to be vulnerable and receive feedback. Be intentional about who you allow into your inner circle. Protect your energy by surrounding yourself with people who lift you up, challenge you to be better, and support your journey toward the love you deserve. Understanding that healing is not linear. As you do this work of healing your patterns and raising your standards, understand that healing is not linear. You're not going to read this information, have an epiphany, and suddenly be completely transformed. You're going to make progress, then slide back into old patterns. You're going to have moments of clarity followed by moments of doubt. You're going to take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. This is completely normal and expected. Don't beat yourself up when you make mistakes or fall back into old behaviors. Healing is a process, not an event. Be patient and compassionate with yourself. You're undoing decades of conditioning, trauma, and patterns. This takes time. Celebrate your small victories. Every time you set a boundary, every time you say no, every time you walk away from something that's not right for you, every time you choose yourself, that's progress. It doesn't matter if you didn't do it perfectly or if you struggled with the decision. What matters is that you did it. Over time, these small choices accumulate and create significant change. You'll look back a year from now and barely recognize the person you were. But in the day-to-day, the changes might feel slow and subtle. There will be moments of loneliness and doubt. There will be times when you question whether your standards are too high or whether you're being too picky. There will be times when you see friends in relationships, even dysfunctional ones, and feel envious or left behind. These feelings are normal. Don't let them derail you. Remember why you're doing this work. You're not raising your standards and healing your patterns so you can stay stuck and alone. You're doing it so you can finally have the kind of love that's worthy of you. Every day you spend healing and growing is a day you're moving closer to that reality. Trust the process. Trust that as you change internally, your external reality will change to match it. Trust that there's a reason and a lesson in everything you've experienced. Trust that your perfect partner is out there and that when you're ready, you'll find each other. Trust that being alone and healing is infinitely better than being with someone who diminishes you. Trust yourself. Trust that you have everything you need within you to create the life and love you desire. Your past does not define your future. Your age does not limit your possibilities. Your mistakes do not disqualify you from love. You are worthy right now, exactly as you are, of being loved fully, deeply, and authentically. Never forget that. If you've made it to this point in the video, I want to thank you for being here and for being willing to do this deep, honest work. Protecting your energy and stopping the pattern of attracting wrong men is not easy. It requires courage, commitment, and a willingness to face uncomfortable truths about yourself and your patterns. But I promise you, it's worth it. Every bit of effort you put into healing yourself and raising your standards brings you closer to the love you deserve. You are not too old. You are not too damaged. You are not too difficult. You are a woman of value who deserves a partner who sees that value and honors it every single day. Remember, you cannot attract what you don't believe you deserve. So work on truly believing that you are worthy of healthy, respectful, committed love. Work on healing your wounds so they stop controlling your choices. Work on setting and maintaining strong boundaries. Work on building a life you love so you're not looking for a man to complete you. Work on trusting your intuition and having the courage to walk away when something's not right. Do this work not to get a man, but because you deserve to live as your higher self. The right man will be a natural byproduct of you becoming who you're meant to be. Before you go, I want to ask for your support one more time. If this video has given you valuable insights, please hit that like button right now. It truly helps this content reach more women who need it. Drop a comment below and share what resonated with you or what you're committing to work on. Your comment creates community and helps other women feel less alone in their journey. Share this video with any women in your life who might benefit from hearing this message. Tag them in the comments or send them the link directly. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, because we're here creating content specifically for you. The mature woman who's ready to step into her power and create the love life she deserves. And if you really want to support what we do here, if this content has made a real difference in your life, consider supporting the channel with super thanks. It's a feature right below this video that allows you to make a financial contribution to support our work. Every bit of support helps us continue creating this valuable content for women like you. Your generosity is deeply appreciated and allows us to keep showing up for you with insights, guidance, and encouragement. Remember, you are powerful beyond measure. You have the ability to change your life starting right now, today, with the very next choice you make. Choose yourself, protect your energy, raise your standards, and never ever settle for less than you deserve. Thank you for being here. I believe in you, and I'm cheering you on every step of the way. Until next time, take care of yourself and remember that the best is yet to come.